পানি না না কিছু না নেক্সট জন କଣ ହଉଛି ତାର ମୁଣ୍ଡ କିଛି ତାର ଉଷୁମ ଫୁଷୁମ ହଉନି ସେ ଜେନେରାଲ ଫିଭର ତାର ସେମିତି କିଛି ନାହିଁ well okay is my screen visible to you? Is my screen visible to you all?
Huh?
Okay, is my screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we are going to discuss the sermon at Benaras. It's a kind of a means you can say that a sacred text. Sacred text means, you understand, it's called as a holy, right, or called as a pious or a pure text. So if you talk about this topic, the sermon means indicating as a preaching, right, preaching, or called as a kind of teaching, preaching, teaching, and you can say that what kind of a preaching or teaching. So preaching means called as a religious lecture. A religious means teaching. So, and where did it held? Now it held at Benares. So on the basis of that, the story, not the story, the sacred text is presented here. So if you talk about this, we find out that what is a sermon. So obviously sermon is a religious lecture. It's not different from a lecture or a talk. So we can say that we can't say that in a negative way or as a joke, right? So that okay, so negative way means what? Negative way means called as a making a kind of a negative statement. So using the particular term sermon in a negative sense. So obviously you must have carried a great knowledge about this topic. I'll just give a brief idea on this particular topic. So have you heard of the Sermon on the Mount? Obviously this is a another lecture or a religious talk which was made by Jesus Christ, right? And who do you think delivered a sermon at Benares? It is indicating to Gautam Buddha. So if you talk about Gautam Buddha, so we all know that he is one of the religious gurus, whose time period is given as a 563 BC to 483 BC, and began life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautama. So obviously Gautam Buddha, so earlier known as a Siddhartha Gautama, so who was a prince, and mostly and famous in northern India. So we understood also at the age of 12 he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures, and 4 years later he returned home to marry a princess. So if you talk about that, at 12 he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures. Scriptures means called as a writing. Sacred scriptures means called as a holy writing. And after 4 years he returned home to marry whom? A princess. So it means, if you talk about that, Gautam Buddha means was nothing but a married person. He was a princess, he was a married man, having with a son, right? So with whom he lived for 10 years, and enjoying the benefited royalty. Benefited royalty means called as a wealth, right? As he was a king, so that's why he was living the kingly life. At about the age of 25, the prince heretofore means called as a hereafter, right? So after the age of 25, the prince hereafter shielded from the suffering of the world. Shielded means what? That's called as a hovering or covered. Covered with the what? Now covered from the sufferings of the world. Sufferings of the world means indicating as a how he found that the people who associated in the world, right, living with the pain and no, no. So how people suffer from the means pain and you can say that emotion, right? So shielded means covered from the suffering of the world. While out hunting means what? One day he was going outside for the purpose of hunting, right? He chanced upon a sick man. Chanced upon a sick man means that's called as a he got an opportunity to meet a couple of people, like you can say a sick man, then an aged man, old people, old man, then a funeral procession. So these three, right? And after that, finally he met a monk who was requesting for alms. Alms means referring to the some kind of a wealth, you can say, or wealth also. So these four people actually changed his mind. So what kind of a mind he was? Now he was living a homely life, princely life, becoming a father, becoming a husband, and got to the means people. But at the same time, he realized that when he found that the people who are sick, aged, and dead, as well as a monk. So their life, what did he find out? Now these sights actually, these pictures actually carried away his attraction. So moved him. So moved him means what? Carried away or uh, made his made his mind different, that he at once went out into the world to seek enlightenment. Enlightenment means what? That's called as a developing the means spiritual knowledge. Developing what? The spiritual knowledge means wanted to get the peace, right? So, and why did he want to get the peace? Now because he wanted to see that means the life of the common man, life of a sick man, life of an aged man, life of a dead body, and the life of a monk, how they were living the life, right? So the kind of a pain they were suffering from, and that's why he wanted to search for the happiness or search for the spiritual knowledge. And that's why he was concerning the sorrows means sadness he had witnessed. So concerning the sorrows means what? He was full of understandable the emotion present in the human being. He had witness to that. He wandered means he moved here and there for 7 years out of his house, uh, living the life of a beggar or a monk. So 7 years, and finally he reached to a particular place that is called as a people tree, which we usually say, which we say that Bodhi tree, right? So the meaning of Bodhi tree is called as a what? Means spiritual knowledge provided tree. So he roamed here and there for 7 years, and finally he sat down under a peepal tree where he promised, vowed, B-O-W-E-D. The meaning of vowed is called as a promised. He promised to stay until he get the spiritual knowledge, or called as until he gets the kind of enlightenment, right, that came to him. So, and after 7 days, he got the enlightened after 7 days, and he renamed the tree. The tree is called as a Bodhi tree. Earlier, it was called as a people tree, and now means after Gautam Buddha enlightened 7 days, right? Or after 7 days, when he got enlightened, he renamed the tree called as the Bodhi tree. So the meaning of Bodhi tree is called as a tree of wisdom, right? Or called as a wisdom is called as a knowledge. And he began to teach and to share his new understandings. So what does he teach actually? Now he actually started teaching and sharing his new understanding, means the spiritual knowledge he have had, right? At that point he became known as the Buddha. So people means considered him as the person of a spiritual guru, or called as a means a navigator to the life, or called as a means making the people guiding, right? So therefore, on the basis of his name Buddha, so Bodhi tree, right? Uh, and means he started giving the knowledge that he draw after 7 days under that people tree, and uh, that knowledge is nothing but enlightened. So the Buddha preached his first sermon. Priest means what? That's called as giving religious lecture. Giving religious lecture in his first sermon at the city of Benaras. So Buddha preached his first sermon. Sermon means called as a religious lecture, right? At the city of Benares. Most holy, holy means called as a pious, most religious of the dipping places on the river Ganges. So where was that religious lecture uh, held? Now it was held means under the Bodhi tree nearby the river Ganges was a very peaceful place, and that sermon has been preserved. Preserved means called as a kept in a safe manner, and it's given here. So the part of that lecture is presented here, means in a form of story. The author wanted to point out that what the author pointed out that how a person who means lived a family life, and after that he reached to a particular means state, and he draw the enlightenment, and then after he started preaching to the people, and during that preaching, so he made a story, and that story he presented here, right? The sermon had been preserved and is given here. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom. Which one is reflecting the Buddha's wisdom? The means uh, the preaching, or called as the first sermon that he presented there, right? Which is nothing but indicating about Buddha's wisdom, about one inscrutable kind of a suffering. Inscrutable kind of a suffering means what? Now something which you cannot uh, be understood. Why means people get pain, why people have the emotion means, and why people suffer from grief or desire. So all such kind of a thing. So the story reflects the Buddha's knowledge about what? Means of knowledge about the suffering, right? Inscrutable kind of suffering. Inscrutable means something which cannot be understood, uh, unable to understanding the kind of a suffering people went through. So the story goes it like this. The character is called as a Kisa Gautami. Who is a Kisa Gautami? So one of the women, right, who had an only son, and the son had died. And because of the death of her son, so she was in grief. Grief means full of sadness. She carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine. So whom does she ask for medicines? All her neighbors, asking them for medicines. Obviously people said that she has lost her senses, the boy is dead. So people considered that she was insane, she was mad, she lost her means uh, understanding ability. Why? Now because of her death, because of her son's death, right? So as her son is dead, So yet she is asking for the medicines to cure, right? So that's why people consider that she lost her senses. At last, Kisa Gautami met a man who replied to her request. To reply to her request means like she was requesting everybody, and she found one of the person who means did not consider her as a insensible or called as a mad. So the man means understood her request and made a reply that what? Now, he cannot give the medicines for the child, but he knew a physician who could, right? So he means guided the woman. He guided the woman Kisa Gautami to whom? To uh, Gautam Buddha. He said that what he could not help her child to alive or to her child to make alive, but he knew somebody who could help her to make her child alive. So which was a kind of a means indication towards Gautam Buddha. And the girl said, "Pray tell me, sir, who is it?" And the man replied, "Go to Sakya Muni, the Buddha." So you can understand that Buddha has the another name called Sakya Muni. Buddha is also known as Sakya Muni. So Kisa Gautami repaired to the Buddha and cried. So repaired to the Buddha means what? She immediately went to Buddha. She immediately went to Buddha, right? And uh, cried before Buddha means, begging before Buddha that she made Buddha and she named Buddha as Lord and Master. Give me the medicine that will cure my boy. So the Buddha answered it. I want a handful of mustard seed. So Buddha understood that and he pointed that if the woman would fulfill the condition. What was the condition? Now, if the woman gave Buddha a handful of mustard seed, right? So he could save his child. He could save her child. So by listening to that, the woman in her joy promised to procure it. Procure it means obtain or bring it. Bring it what? Bring the mustard seed. The Buddha added the mustard. So the Buddha added means Buddha added to that and said that it's not about that handful of mustard you need to bring. So where you supposed to bring it? Now the mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, no one has lost a husband, no one has lost parent or friend, right? So from such kind of a home, you must have collect means of what? Mustard seed, handful of mustard seed. Poor Kisa Gautami now went from house to house. So house to house means she wanted for what? She wanted for the mustard seed, handful of mustard seed, and that's why she was means she wanted to do anything for her son, and that's why she went from house to house. And the people, felt sad for her and said, "Here is mustard seed, take it." So people are ready to give her mustard seed, but means the woman wanted to know that whether anyone right from their family, that may be son, daughter, or father or mother, died or not. So they answered her. So obviously, if you go to anyone's house, you would find out that somebody they must have lost, right? That maybe their grandfather, grandmother, or maybe brother, or maybe sister, maybe parent, maybe daughter, maybe son. Somebody must have died, is not it? So that's why it is somehow called as a surprising part. They all answered with the surprising. The living are few, but the dead are many. Living are few means what? You can find out that means the family can not consist of 5 members or 10 members. The family consists of means uh, many, but the problem is called as who are alive. They are present here, and many have died already. So this is the indication that if you go to anyone's house, you would find out that means death is something which is attached to the family, right? So the neighbors are stating that do not remind us of our depressed grief. Do not remind us of our depressed grief means what? Now they all were suffering from the means sadness, severe sadness, and there was no house, but some beloved one had died in it. Right? You can't find out a kind of a house where means uh, some must be who is very attached, closed, had not died. So somebody must have died. So that was the message who gave now all those neighbors whose house Kisa Gautami went for what handful of mustard to bring. Kisa Gautami became very and hopeless. And hopeless means called as a dejected and also turning weak and dejected or rejected also. She sat down. She sat down at the wayside. Wayside means you can say that the roadside, and watching the lights of the city. What did she watch? What did she watch? Now she watched the lights of the city as they flickered. Flickered means what? Now blinking, or called as a going and coming, or you can say that what? Uh, it's somehow called as a signing, right? But at the same time, it comes with the light and darkness. So, and were extinguished again. Extinguished again means disappeared again the light. At last, the darkness of the night ruled everywhere. So, Kisa Gautami was in a very and hopeless, feeling very sad and weak, sat down at the roadside, watching to the street lights or lights of the city, which was mm, not constant, means fluctuating all the time, like dark and white, dark and light. And finally, it was gone, extinguished, disappeared. At last, the darkness of the night means ruled everywhere. The whole place is dark. It was the night time. And understood. She understood the fate of man. Fate of man means what is the luck of man? What is the destiny of a human being? That their lives flicker up and are extinguished again. Right? Sorry. That their lives flicker up and are extinguished again. Whose lives? Now that's called as a means human being's life is exactly like means the lights of the city. How? Now the lights of the city that flicker and finally it disappear, similar to that main, right? So once they they come out into this world, right, or called as a come into this world, right? They have a breathing or they have a life, and once they turned old, so they are in a situation of what? Means they are in a situation of danger. And any moment they may disappear. Any moment they stop breathing. Any moment they stop breathing, any moment they are going to die. Right. That is why means or any moment they will take a leap from this world. That is what he means. She understood who? Nakisa Gautami. So nobody means made her understand. So she understood herself by sitting at the sitting at the wayside or called as a roadside. So and she compared that the street of the light, uh, lights of the city with whom? Lights of the city with the fate of the main. So she thought to herself how selfish she was in her grief. So she realized that it happened to everybody. She was not the a lonely one, right? So she for some time she turned herself selfish in grief. Death is coming common to all. This is the kind of a message. This is the kind of a theme or key idea she drew at the end of it, that death is something which is common, right? And yet in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads him to immortality, who had surrendered all selfishness. Yet in this valley of desolation means what? Now, there's something called as a place that filled with deep sorrow, sadness. So a place where all the people means lose their near and dear, suffering from sadness. So how to come out from that sadness? Now, when you understand that, so that what? Now, when you understand that means understand that to forget about the immortality, forget about the immortality, and make yourself understand that everyone who comes to this world will die once, right? And to leave the idea of creating relationship or forming relationship or uh, expecting their all-time life, right? So the kind of a selfish attitude for our near and dear, love for our near and dear, if we surrender that, if we forget that, if we ignore that, then we will definitely live a means good life, and also we will stay out from this grief, from this sorrow or sadness. So the Buddha here said that what? The Buddha said, the life of mortals in this world is a troubled. The life of mortals in this world. So this is what called as all about the Kisa Gautami, how finally she realized that means death is common to all, and we shall means ignore the, or we shall avoid the selfishness for others, right? We must understand that immortal means that what, anyone who comes to this world will have to die. So the Buddha said the life of mortals in this world. So on the basis of this story, he came to the conclusion in that sermon, in that lecture, that what? Now the life of mortals in this world is troubled and brief and combined with pain. So we cannot think that one who lives the life or who breathes will live the life of immortality. No, no one can live the life of immortality. Anyone who have the breath, right? Or who have the ability of breathing, or who have the life. The Buddha said that the life of mortals in this world is troubled and brief. So whoever comes to this world with the life, so is facing the problem with the combined with the pain. Problem and pain both are associated. For there, for there is not any means by which those that have been burned can avoid dying. So what does it say? Now, for there is not any means by which those that have been burned can avoid dying. So anyone who lives or who came to this world or who comes to this world means uh, stop dying, or called as avoid dying. You cannot avoid death, right? So after reaching old age, there is death. So of such a nature are living beings. So living, that is the means that is the nature's reality. That what, now anyone who have a life will definitely means face the death. So the Gautam Buddha again compared humans' life with the means life of, or life of ripe fruits. He compared by saying that ripe fruits are early in danger of falling. It means old age people, right? So definitely, or are early in danger of falling. Once a person turns old, right, there is death. So any moment means uh, they may die, like the ripe fruits who are in any moment have the situation of falling. So mortals when born are always in danger of death. So mortals means anyone who have a life, so born in this world, will definitely die, or as all earthen vessels. So you can point out that how Gautam Buddha, how Gautam Buddha compares a human's life with the ripe fruits, and second means compares with all earthen vessels. All earthen vessels means referring to the means um, clay pot, clay clay pot made by the potter and in being broken. So you feel like what potter has created it. So once the means clay pot is created or earthen vessel is created, that doesn't mean that it is not going to break. So any moment it falls from your hand it will break. So that is what the life of mortals, whether you are young, adult. So both those who are fools and those who are wise, even young and adults, fools and wise. So or those who are powerful and those who are weak, all fall into the power of death. So everyone has to die. All are subject to death, so they will die, but in a different means different ways. Maybe some dies because of the because of the disease, some die because of the accident, some die because of the natural death, some die because of means uh, war, right? So in that case it is the subject to death. Of those who overcome by death, depart from life. Of those who overcome by death, so those who ignore, those who means forget those selfishness, so obviously reaching to the peaceful life. Of those who overcome, so who avoid or who forgets the thought of death, so definitely live a peaceful life and depart from life, means called as a, he has a means a thought of beyond means a physical source, right? He lives a spiritual life. A father cannot save his son, nor relatives their relations. Kinsmen means relatives. Not nor relatives their relations. Mark, right? So Mark, it's a kind of calling to somebody, that Mark, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, one by one mortals are carried up. Mark, while relatives are looking on and crying deeply, so you cry for others, but there will be a time when you die and others will cry, and they will die, others will cry. So it means, it indicates that you shall not think about the death will not take you. So one by one mortals are carried up. So one by one mortals means living beings, are means are passed away from this world, like an ox that is led to the slaughter. So ox means what? Means an animal which is taken to the water, taken to the means place where it has to slaughter, or it has to uh, make slaughter. So the world is afflicted with, or the world is affected by suffering, disease or pain. So the way ox is taken to the slaughterhouse for means murdering it, similar to that, one by one mortals are taken, and they will also means die. So in that case, the point, it is also stated the world is affected with the death or and decay. Therefore, the wise do not grieve. The wise means what? Those who are spiritually active, spiritually means beyond the physical means attachment, right? So they do not cry, they do not feel sad. They know the terms of the world. What is the terms of the world? That someone has come to this world means someone has to die. Not from crying, not from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. So means what is that peace of mind? The peace of mind is something called as a when you ignore, when you prevent, when you stop thinking about, means uh, stop thinking or stop crying from grieving will, means stop crying from for others who die. So that will lead to the peace of mind. On the opposite side, on the contrary, means on the opposite side, so the human's pain will be the greater and his body will suffer. Human's pain will be the greater and his body will suffer. So who actually suffers? When somebody dies, you cry, you do not take food, and you do not go outside, then who is suffering? Your body is suffering. So that's what Gautam Buddha said. He will also make himself sick and pale. So because of the others, you also turn yourself, means into the disease, into the illness, into the kind of a odd situation. You also, your face, your body also change. So yet the dead are not saved by his lamentation. So your cry, your sadness cannot help the dead body to come alive. So he who seeks peace should draw out the arrow of lamentation. So if you really want to get the peace in your life, then you're supposed to, means uh, draw out the arrow of lamentation. So lamentation means sadness, complaint, and grief. So these are the things you should, means ignore or you should forget, right? He who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed means what? Now live a reality life will definitely peace of mind. He who has overcome all sadness will become free from sorrow and be blessed. That's what Gautam Buddha said, that we shall understand the practical things of the life, that we cannot make our body to suffer pain, right? And why does it suffer pain? Now, because when we cry for, means when we feel sad, when we make complaint, when we feel emotional pain, right? Then our body gets, gets into the problem, and we suffer from, means a kind of a sick and pain, right? We have to overcome all sadness and make ourselves free from sadness, and then only you can get the peace of mind, and that will be called as a blessing, right? That is what, means the sermon at Benaras, where Gautam Buddha, while giving the lecture, he introduces, means the story of Hisa Gautami, right? And this story teaches nothing but the practical thing present, but the practical thing that needs to be uh, understood by the human being. Am I clear? Any doubt, any query? Please do ask.
No, sir.
Somebody tried to join. Okay. Vedika, did you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, yes, a tea from Assam. Somebody was asking, Srijay, shall I start the tea from Assam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll go for that tea from Assam. Tea from Assam. Yep. So this is the third unit of that chapter, Glimpses of India. So obviously, when we talk about glimpses of India, we are recollecting the idea, or means you can say that uh, remembering the picture of India, or you can say remembering means remembering the past, remembering the past of India. That's what it is pointed, that why the country gets popularity, why the country gets popularity because of certain, means reasons behind it, that may be called as a place, that may be called as a people, that may be called as a product, right? So here you will find out when we start reading the units like a baker from Goa. So we are talking about the culture. Mm. Where we are talking about the culture, where we are talking about the tradition, where we are talking about the profession, right? That continues, that started in the past to continue till now, and how it gets popularity, right? Mm. So at the same time, when we go to the second one, that's called as a Kurg, which is written by Lokis Abroad, right? Kurg is reflecting to the particular community, right? So particular means cultured, and you can say that a place which is far from the city, uh, located in a jungle, and how means it reminded the past and its association, its root, and also means it makes an impact on the means other parts of the country. Kurg. It refers to the place, people, and also their culture. Kurg. So, whereas if we go to the third unit is a tea from Assam, which is indicating to the which is written by Arup Kumar Datta. So this particular unit is giving the idea about, again, the place called Assam and the product called tea, and uh, how its origin in the country and its importance, and its impact, and its association with the history, right? That's what it is stated. It is written in a form of what reported speech, where we find out the characters, means some of the characters who have made the dialogues, right? So, and through the dialogues they are trying to discuss the importance of that product in that place. So let me introduce the character is called as a Pranjal. So who is nothing but a youngster from Assam, right? Youngster means called as a means a youngest boy from Assam, and who is nothing but Rajbir's classmate at school in Delhi. So we can understand that Pranjal and Rajbir both are the classmates uh, at school in Delhi. Pranjal's father is the manager of a tea garden in Upper Assam, and Pranjal has invited Rajbir to visit his home during the summer vacation. So it's a clear-cut idea that called as a means, as Rajbir is the Pranjal's friend and Pranjal is living in Assam. So Pranjal invited Rajbir to come to Assam, and there they could means uh, they could stay together, or they could get some means memorable moment to spend. But or that's called as a summer vacation they are going to spend. But through this story, or through this dialogue conversation, so Pranjal, who means belong to Assam, obviously discuss some of the mm, vital information pertinent to Assam, and we assume that, we believe that that's what would be presented through this particular uh, topic. Let's say uh, the story begins with the chai garam garam chai. So the main idea is the tea from Assam, so obviously highlighting to the product tea. So chai garam garam chai, it was a nothing but a vendor called out in a high pitched voice. High pitched voice means called as a roaring or shouting to sell the product or sell the tea. So he came up to their window and asked, Chai saab? So Pranjal said, give us 2 cups. Right. So when the vendor requested or said that, Chai saab, so Pranjal said, give us 2 cups. They sipped the steaming hot liquid. They sipped means referring to the Pranjal and Rajbir, who sipped or who take one after another sip. The steaming is called as a hot air means coming out from the liquid. Almost everyone in their compartment was drinking tea too. So this particular line is indicating how tea becomes the importance in the country, right? So it is stated that, do you know that over 80 crore cups of tea are drunk every day throughout the world, right? It's indicating the world, right? Over 80 crore cups of tea are drunk every day, Rajveer said. So, means Rajveer, who was the guest to Pranjal, right? But Rajveer gave the answer. Pranjal surprised. Well, so it's a kind of a, means a sound came out. Tea really is very popular. So the train pulled out of the station. Pranjal buried his nose in his detective book again. So, like when uh, the train moved, so Pranjal buried, means busy with his detective book to read. Rajvi too was an ardent fan. Ardent means called as a severe or serious fan, right, of detective stories. So, but at the moment he was keener on looking at the beautiful scenery. Kinaran looking at the beautiful scenery means from moving one place to the other place. So in between the outside environment in a rail journey, so definitely attract the visitors to look outside and see the beautiful picture, right? Natural scenery. It was green everywhere. Rajbir had never seen so much greenery before. Then the soft green paddy fields gave way to tea bushes. Then the soft green paddy fields. Uh, Obviously, Rajbir did not visit to that Assam. So, because it is pointed that he had never seen so much greenery before. Maybe he did not go to any of the, means, what do you say that? Uh, rural areas. Then the soft green paddy fields gave way to tea bushes. So paddy fields means covering with the, what do you say that, straw, a set of straw which were made as a one of the, means big, covering to the one of the big place. So it was a magnificent view. Which was a magnificent view? Means that the outside paddy fields and also means the place covered with the green and greenery against the backdrop of densely wooded hills. So obviously back of it you would find out nothing but the, means hills are present, but those of the hills are covering with the huge trees. A sea of tea bushes trees as far as the eye could see. Even means one place to the other place covered with nothing but the tea garden, right? So the eye could not see that. So means such a long place it covered, dwarfing the tiny tea plants, right? Were tall, sturdy shade trees, and in the middle, the orderly rows of bushes busily moved dull-like figures. So you would find out that here the workers have been compared. The workers have been compared as a what, doll-like figures, and here also you will find out, means how the, means dwarfing the tiny tea plants, small tree plants. They were tall, sturdy. Sturdy means strong shade trees. It's also covering with the, means big trees, and in the middle also you will find out, means how the row of bushes busily moved, right? So rows of bushes usually move to dull like figures. So in that case, you would find out it is the complete description of the, means tea garden. In the distance, there was an ugly building with the smoke billowing out of tall chimneys. In the distance means far from the place, you will find out the buildings are very old. That's why it is called as an ugly building. And means out of the terrace, the smoke billowing out, means coming out of tall chimneys. Hey, a tea garden, Rajbir excitedly said that. It's nothing but a tea garden. Pranjal, who had been born and brought up on a plantation in Assam, did not share Rajbir's excitement. So he was not, means uh, having the same kind of excitement that Rajbir had. Why? Now, because obviously means uh, something which is he familiar with. So why do he means get into the excitement? So obviously Rajbir was excited because it was for him. It was first time. Oh, this is tea country now. Oh, this is tea country now. He said. Who said? Rajbir said. Uh, uh, Assam has the largest concentration of plantation in the world. So you will see enough gardens to last your lifetime. You will see enough gardens to last your lifetime. Means uh, until you reach to the Assam, you reach to the place or destination, you will find out nothing but means enough gardens are covered, right? I have been reading as much as I could about tea, as we said. No one really knows who discovered tea, but there are many legends. So Rajveer also stated that he read many of the books on on this particular topic, tea, and he also discovered that there are many legends, right, who are associated with the tea. So what legends? Well, there is the what legends means. Obviously, it is the question from Pranjal's side. Hmm. So, well, there is the one about the Chinese emperor. So again, Rajbir made a state. Uh, uh, um, Rajbir opened or stated about one of the legend name or legend from the Chinese emperor who always boiled water before drinking it. So how it is associated with the tea? Now he said that Chinese emperor who always boiled water before drinking it. One day, a few leaves of the twigs means called as a small, means two separated leaves, right? So, or called as a small branches of the tea, tea plant. So, um, burning under the pot fell into the water, giving it a delicious flavor. So, immediately, what it has a different taste or unique taste or a sweet taste, right? Why? Because they did not know the taste earlier. So for them, it was nothing but a first time, and that's why they consider it's a delicious flavor. It is said they were tea leaves. They were, it is said they were tea leaves. So they understood that it was nothing but the tea leaves. So Pranjal scoffed and said, "Tell me another." So Pranjal means got into the excitement and wanted to know more about it. And that's why he requested means whom? Rajiv to tell him another. So he also said that we have an Indian legend too. We have an Indian legend too, Bodhidharma, an ancient Buddhist ascetic. So, Bodhidharma means it is referring to the those who are the means uh, disciple of Buddha, or those who are devoted to Buddha, Bodhidharma, right? Devoted means they pray to the Buddha. A disciple, those who are the means students of Buddha, right? So they cut up his eyelids because they felt sleepy during meditations. So 10 tea plants grew out of the eyelids, right? The lips of these plants, when put in hot water and drunk, banished sleep. So it indicates that how means the tea leaves are the region of their means sleeping is gone. Tea was first drunk in China, Rajbir added also, as far back as 2700 BC. So it's indicated about means it's a first discovery in China, and it was the time period of 2700 BC. In fact, words such as tea, chai, and chini are from Chinese. So he made a logical relation of tea with the China by saying that what chai and chini, so name derived from Chinese. Tea came to Europe only into the 16th century and was drunk more as medicine than a beverage. So tea is considered as the medicine than considered as the beverage like we take other things. the train clattered into Mariani Junction. So clatter means that's called as a made a noise. It did not talk about the stop. The train made a big, huge noise into Mariani Junction. So the boys collected their luggage and pushed their way to the crowded platform. So finally, both reached to their destination and they came out from the train and they entered to the crowded platform. So their Pranjal's parents came to receive them. So they were waiting for them. Soon they were driving towards Bari. So Bari is called as the name of the place, right? So, or you can say that it is a place covered with the tea garden. So the tea garden managed by Pranjal's father. So as far as we know that Pranjal was born and brought up in Assam, right? So that's why he knew more about that. He knew much about that Assam, right? So whereas Rajbir, who did not belong to that place, but at the same time, he collected more information about means Assam or tea garden. So finally, they reached at the platform where means Pranjal's parents received uh, Pranjal and Rajbir, and they went towards Bari. So Bari, the tea garden, which is managed by Pranjal's father. So an hour later, the car veered sharply off the main road, means took a direction means towards the main road. So, an hour later, the car veered sharply off the main road, means took a street, right, from the highway to means towards the street, take a kind of a direction. They crossed. They also passed a cattle bridge and entered Dekyavari's estate. On both sides of the gravel road, narrow road, were acre upon acre of tea bushes. On both sides of the gravel road or narrow road, acre upon acre of tea bushes. Acre means referring to the means size of the land, right? So it acre is called as an account, right? Account of what? Account of the field, the size. So the size of the field is called as acre upon acre of tea bushes, all neatly pruned. All neatly pruned means all neatly decorated and also sized to the same height. So which one was neatly sized into the same height? Now that's called as the tea bushes. Groups of tea pluckers. So here we were referring to the people, omen, right? So the groups of omen. So what they do now? They actually plucking the means fresh tea leaves, and that's why they have been called as a tea pluckers. So with bamboo baskets on their backs. So wearing plastic aprons, they were plucking the newly sprouted leaves. Newly sprouted means called as a newly green twigs. Green twigs, sprouted means producing leaves. Newly producing leaves. So they means a pluck it. So Pranjal's father slowed down. Why? Not to allow a tractor to pass them, pulling a trailer load of tea leaves to pass. So that tractor was covered with nothing but tea leaves. And this is the second flush or sprouting period. Second flush or sprouting period means this is the second time or second, like we usually do the cultivation second time in a year. The first time we did it and we also harvested. The second time also we do it. So likewise, this is the second flush or sprouting period of the tea garden. Is not it Mr. Barua? Who said Rajbir? And whom did he say? He said to, or he asked to Mr. Barua. Who is Mr. Barua? Pranjal's father. It lasts from May to July and produces the best tea. You seem to have. So it means Rajbir also pointed that why it is called as a second flush or sprouting period, second time harvesting period. because it continues from May to July and produces the best tea. So Pranjal's father, Mr. Barua, was surprised and said that what? Now, gave a compliment to Rajbir by stating that he had done his homework before coming to the place Assam. Pranjal's father said in surprise. Mr. Barua, yes, Mr. Barua, Rajbir had also accepted that he means uh, learned a lot of things about Assam, but I hope to learn much more while I am here. So this indicates that how Assam is popular for its tea garden, right? So that's what is the complete discussion that held here. So am I clear? Hello? Srijay, did you understand?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir.
Well, guys, we'll stay here. We'll move to the next class tomorrow. So meet you tomorrow 9 o'clock. Till then, bye-bye. Thank you. Any doubt, any query?
Thank you, sir.
Any doubt, any query, don't forget to send me your question in my WhatsApp. Right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Not a 36 पे